to the Vintage Vibe.
Thanks for joining us here on the Vintage Vibe, where this week we're going to take a peek at one of Pioneer's top-of-the-line integrated amplifiers, straight out of the 70s, the SA-9100. But before I get too carried away with that, which I sometimes can, I want to go ahead and make mention of a cool milestone here that we've reached on the Vintage Vibe. Just the other day, my youngest came to me. She's got her own YouTube channel called Waves Gaming, and she said, "Hey Dad, do you know you're about to hit 1,000 subscribers?" I was like, cool. So we counted down, 997, 998, 999, 1,000. So to thank you folks for being just as crazy as I am, well, maybe not just as crazy, but just as passionate about vintage audio as I am, I want to go ahead and give you the shirt off my back. Well, maybe not quite the shirt off my back, but I'll give you this one. And this one's better because it's clean. This Marantz Hi-Fi t-shirt. And all you need to do is put your, in the comments that you like the t-shirt. And I'm going to pick one lucky subscriber, because I've only got one t-shirt, and I'm going to send it to you free of charge, shipping included, just because, well, I'm that kind of guy. And as always, I love to see your comments. I'll do my best to try to get back to you as soon as I can, but I love to see that interaction between subscribers. We're answering each other's questions, asking for advice, sharing, with each other some new cool finds, because, hey, that's just the cool thing to do here on the Vintage Vibe. We'll see you soon.
The 9100 at the time was dubbed Pioneer's finest professional integrated amplifier. It had all kinds of new features that we'll talk about, including DC OCL circuitry, and it was capable of 60 watts by 2, 20 to 20. This behemoth was over 13.6 kilograms and a perfect match for speakers at the time, like the HMP 200 by Pioneer. I mean HPM. Regardless, the 9100 had more than enough guts to get the job done. With over 63 transistors inside, this was cutting edge, capable of 10 Hz to 70 kHz in a 4 ohm load. This was just as handsome as it was functional, including a unique 3-stage direct coupled equalizer, step tone controls, as well as 3 pairs of speaker output terminals. Now let's go ahead and take a peek inside Pioneer's SA-9100. So as always, we disassemble and clean it. I found it extremely easy to service, particularly getting the deoxit into those potentiometers there, working the controls back and forth. It's very neat and well laid out. A lot of attention and time and care was put into this amp, including that equalization circuit. You've got good size heat sinks on either side of that transformer there, as well as twin 15,000 UF capacitors for a good beefy power supply. This is one beautiful amplifier.
Now I get it. You might be thinking to yourself, 60 watts by 2? Big power transformer and capacitors. I mean, didn't everything have that in the 1970s? Keep in perspective 2 things. One, that rating of 60 watts by 2 was a true power rating. I mean, we're talking 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, not the 1 kilohertz test tones that we've seen in many amplifiers to follow. Also, this was pre-Monster receiver. I mean, the first 100-watt receiver marketed by Pioneer was in 1974, and certainly a precursor to the later SX-1250, which we've all come to love, that came out in 1976. So 60 watts per channel was a lot of power at that time. And certainly more than most speakers were designed to handle back then as well. And this amplifier really did lay the foundations for these great receivers to come by Pioneer, including features like the OCL differential circuitry in it, the DC amplification, the twin tone controls, the split plus and minus power supply that prevented that annoying clicking you used to get when you would work controls on an amplifier. I mean, this was all really cutting edge. And I think the 9100 is actually a better sounding integrated amp than the later SA-9500, which I've had twice, and I think are great amplifiers. But Pioneer took a turn to try to make a more accurate sounding amplifier at that time. And I think the 9100 had already got it right.
No shortage of inputs, including provisions for 2 turntables. We've got a stepped volume control with also negative 15 and 30 dB increments of adjustment, twin tone controls, 10 kilohertz and 20 kilohertz for treble, 50 hertz and 100 hertz for bass, as well as provisions for 3 speakers, yet not all 3 speakers can be operated simultaneously. Stereo and reverse switches, tape monitor, our balance control, separate loudness, as well as high and low filters, a tone defeat to bypass the tone controls altogether, separate muting, phono jack, provisions for 2 microphones, as well as a unique protection circuit built right in. And again, as you operate the controls, you respond with nice firm clicks. And that plus or minus split power control prevents that annoying popping sound sometimes you can get with older amplifiers doing just that. Now remember, this is like an equalizer built right in, and it's exceptionally useful with controlling bass, which sometimes can get boomy on older amplifiers. I found this a great compromise. Now the stepped attenuator again has that level selector, which allows you to get the volume adjustments in between each step just right. Everything is really high quality here, including nice solid aluminum knobs, a great faceplate on this unit engraved, as well as a veneer cabinet. Now I think this amplifier is an exceptional example of really what the 1970s had to offer. I mean, they were handsome units, great sounding units, and well built. Today, they're not extremely rare to find, and you'll usually pay north of $600 for one in good condition. In fact, this one serviced was recently sold for about $900 Canadian.
A couple last things I'd like to share with you before we kind of do a summary on the amplifier and talk about how it sounds. 2 other features that are notable on the amplifier on the back. One is separate gain controls for the phono, as well as I believe the auxiliary. Now it's debatable the usefulness of them, but if you are kind of A-Bing between sources, I guess it can be handy. But it's kind of a neat feature. You don't see it a lot. Another one is a switch to separate the power amp and the preamp, which is definitely a useful feature on any receiver, amplifier, so on and so forth. Now, how does it sound? This is a really great sounding amplifier. I would rank it in one of those top kind of, I don't know, top 10, top 15 of 1970s that are, you know, early 70s. Remember, at that time, you know, there wasn't really a lot of powerful integrated amplifiers. This was kind of on the forefront, and it has just enough power and just stout enough of a power supply to provide, you know, really good control over the loudspeakers with a really taut bass. Now, the equalization circuit helps with all that. You can adjust it and fine tune it, but it does a really good job of not overcompensating when you select, because you've got the twin tone controls. Now, even when you bypass the tone controls, I found it's a really neutral sounding amplifier. It just has enough sweetness in that mid-range that is reminiscent of older amplifiers, but it's definitely not to the point of something like a capacitor coupled amplifier or receiver like my Marantz 2230, which is a sweet sounding receiver. I'll never sell it. But this is a little more accurate and true to life, because that was Pioneer's goal at the time, to create, you know, the most advanced professional stereo amplifier, integrated amplifier, that is. If you've ever listened to an SX1010, that would be the most similar sounding to the 9100, because remember, the 1010 was kind of designed to some degree on the circuitry and the research that Pioneer had put into, for example, the 9100. And the 1010 is sometimes debated as being one of the best sounding Pioneer receivers, bar none, even over a 1250 or a 1280, which is certainly the pinnacle of technology for Pioneer at the time, and probably for maybe build quality. I mean, it's a close tie between the 1010 and the 1250 in build quality. They're both great built units, but the 9100 has that same sound to it as the 1010. It's very enjoyable. It's a relaxing amplifier. You just don't get tired of it. It's not grainy. It's not harsh. It's not too much of anything, I guess is how I'd put it. And it's really hard to describe how things sound without listening to them. You know, we're trying to communicate it in words here, which is not always the easiest thing to do. So I hope that helps kind of explain a little bit about it. Last comment, I wish I kind of still had it. I mean, it's that great of a unit in such a solid, package. Anyways, thanks for joining us here on the Vintage Vibe. Hope to see you next time. Don't forget to like and keep on subscribing. See you soon.